Welcome back to another week of Blue Review. Clinton Yates, the Big CY, Corporate Greg Bergman here with you. As always, the Blue Review is presented by Los Angeles International Airport. Hire LAX creates life-changing career opportunities for Los Angeles residents. For more information, check out Hire LAX on Eventbrite. All right, Clinton. So the Dodgers are now games up in the division after all this craziness that's gone on. They've won their last 3 series, and they won the last 2 against the 2 of the best teams in all of the American League in the Rangers and the Orioles. They're kind of starting to go on that upward momentum that they'd end up doing at the end of July into August, and they're starting to be the contender that we knew they were going to be. I thought it was a great weekend overall. Yesterday was a little bit frustrating with Emmett Sheehan just not being able to find the plate whatsoever, even though they got that grand slam from Max Muncy at the very beginning, and they just couldn't pull it through. But otherwise, very successful weekend.
Very successful weekend, extremely successful road trip overall. And the only 3 games they lost were series finales to each team. Yeah. I think that from what we've looked at from the development of this team from April to now, they had the pitching issues. They started early with the issues of not being able to beat bad teams. This is about the best stretch we've seen from this baseball unit all season. I do think, however, there is something to be noted about the fact that they dropped series finales against all 3 teams. Only in this, that even though this team is playing well, there is still room for improvement. Imagine if you win 3 of those games, those 3 games. Then you're looking at, a 10-game winning streak kind of situation. Yeah. I'd be interesting to see, and this is just something to note, Dodgers fans, who will be the next team that the Dodgers sweep in a 3-game series? I just wonder who it will be, when that might happen, simply because these are the kind of things you think about when you think about playoff situations, is being able to close out squads, being able to win even though you've got a cushion on a particular team as a way to advance. And so this is by no means any sort of panic. I'm just thinking about this in terms of who the opponents are. I wonder who they're going to sweep, if they sweep anybody, because they're playing as well as they've ever played. But for whatever reason, in these series against good teams, that last one gets away from them.
Yeah, no, it's actually a decent point, because now you have to look forward into the playoffs at some point, and now we're starting to get there. We probably should start looking forward once we get into August after the trade deadline. But for the most part, these are the types of things to be thinking about, because the closeout game is extremely important. And this Dodgers team, as we've talked about 100 times, it only matters what you do in the playoffs. None of this other stuff matters. It doesn't matter if they win the division. It doesn't matter if they win by 10 games or if they win by 1 game. They have to win the World Series. And so that a part of that is closeout victories. And this is a good – does it happen this week against Toronto in this first series? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Toronto is a good team, but it'll be interesting to see if it does, because, look, I mean, I'm of the belief that you don't necessarily live your life according to what happened at the end of your last season. But again, the way that season ended last year, not closing anything out, I think is something that's in the back of your mind. I do think it helps that they're playing the Blue Jays at home. I think it's a good measure, because you've been on the road against some good squads. You're coming home to play another good one. So we're looking forward to that. But, you mentioned the trade deadline, Greg. That's coming up. We're about a week away. How many days is that? That's 8 days. Yeah. And Friday on the program on ESPN LA, Sedano mentioned the possibility of getting rid of Max Muncy and trying to pry Nolan Arenado away from the Cardinals. I need to know your thoughts on that potential deal for the Dodgers.
Look, if it was straight up 1-for-1, I'd say do it right now at this very second and make it happen. Absolutely. But there's more other things that I would have to go involved in all that. I love Nolan Arenado. He is possibly the best third baseman in the history of baseball. He wins platinum glove after platinum glove after platinum glove, which is the best defender ever. I mean, not ever, but you know what I mean. The best defender in the position, in the league, all that good stuff.
Yes.
I would love to get Nolan Arenado. He still has a bunch of years left on his deal. It's a lot of money. They're saving. It's obvious that the Dodgers are saving all their money for Shohei Ohtani. I'm not opposed to trading Max Muncy. I want that to be very, very clear. I am not opposed to trade. I love Max, but he is a guy that is a strikeout or a home run kind of guy right now. He's more Adam Dunn than what he used to be. He does still walk a lot, which is, great, but he has the power, but he doesn't really get on base as much as he used to. I'm not opposed to it. I don't want to lose Muncy, but if for the right deal, if Nolan Arenado is coming back in that deal, 100% right now, yesterday, 3 weeks ago, I don't care. But I think good.
Two things about that. Number one, Muncy is a bit of a sentimental favorite, in my opinion. You know how I feel about guys.
So is Justin Turner.
Yeah, I know. But hold on. I'm saying, you know how I feel about guys who either got drafted or played on a World Series winning team. I don't mean to say that as in the Dodgers wouldn't be willing to get rid of him. I'm just meaning to say that as in that's a lot of pressure on a guy like Arenado, which is fine. He's a great player. It's just an interesting time of year to make a move like that for a team that's actually already good. Secondly, I think like you'd have to give up a whole lot more than Max freaking Muncy to get back Arenado. And that's way more than I think is necessarily worth it, because Max at this stage of his career is simply not the same guy. Grand slams on the road aside. So as fun as that would be, I just don't think that's a realistic option for this team right now. But I will say this, I don't think you can look at stashing salary as a way to prevent yourself from making moves. I do not agree. They got the money for Ohtani. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to spend it. And I don't think that you should hinder your current team for the potential down the line for Ohtani when it's already going to be an astronomical number, the likes of which we've never seen before.
Well, no, absolutely. Look, if a deal comes in where they can bring in salary, but it'll make them a World Series favorite, I think they absolutely do it. Andrew Friedman, I trust Andrew Friedman to do the right thing for this team. Every single time people doubt Andrew Friedman, he does something. He brings in somebody. I don't know who it's going to be. Everybody thinks it's going to be Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, or it's going to be Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals, or it's going to be somebody that's going to help this team as a frontline starter. And then somebody's going to come in and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that dude was on the table. And there's Andrew Friedman pulling him in. I think he'll bring in salary if he has to, but everything they've done is kept their salary low so that they could make sure that they were ready to go for Shohei Ohtani in the offseason.
Well, hold on, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. This is a very real discussion coming up on the trade deadline, which is, are you going to be less aggressive for the potential down the line? Like, we can talk about in general what Friedman does, but over the next week, this is something that Greg and I will be looking at a lot, which is who's there? And if he's there and available, why aren't you getting him? If the reason is Ohtani down the line, don't love that, but we'll see how this develops.